Hi everyone, I want to thank you for the amazing job you did last night in class. I think we had a lot of fun, learned a lot, and it was another style of co-teaching, or a varied style of co-teaching, I would say. And what did we call it? The modified station teaching. Normally stations are within the classroom and have smaller groups, but we wanted you to be able to kind of get these different kind of concepts, but also see how they link together last night. So hopefully you felt good about the different topics as well. So this is just to go over this week's expectations. I'm just going to go through the PowerPoint really quickly and remind everybody that the critical reflection is where you go beyond just the readings, the class activities, and your own experience, and you make connections between those three. Our 4 critical reflection questions. One is on the environmental assessment. And remember, you can use this document right here. The link is right here, where you go through and you'll either interview your cooperating teacher, or if you are the teacher of record and you know all the answers to these questions, you can just answer them yourself, or you can go to your principal or a mentor teacher and just talk to them to figure out some of the baseline pieces of the classroom environment. The other thing, whoops, let's get back. Okay, the other thing is the self-study action plan. And so we talked last night about, we analyzed and we came up with a plan and implementation supports for our self-study action plan. And so I just want you to do a summary of it. I don't need to see your data, but now you're going to summarize what did you learn about your behavior, what is your solution or action plan, describe your system for supporting the change in behavior. So this, remember, we talked a lot about like the positive self-talk statements and different resourcing that we can use, or resources that we can use. And then how will you monitor your behavior in the next week? We are going to check in and see how we are all doing on our goals over the next week, and talk about them a little bit next week. So, and then for the case study, you're going to turn in by next week step 1.1, which is the review of records. And then let me just take this blue mark off. And then you'll be also working on steps 1.2 and 1.3, which I'll go over in just a moment. But one of the things that asks you to do in 1.1 is actually interview somebody about the student. And here's some 4 questions that you can use, although you're not required to use. I'm not sure why there's this extra parenthesis. Okay. And then the last one is on the restorative practices. So how can you use RP in your classroom? What do you need to do to prepare for restorative circles with your students? And remember, you use the textbook, the readings as well to answer these questions. So, the Pariser reading, I think it's page 1 through 65. And then for the restorative practices, it's the first 2 chapters. I'm not sure the page numbers. Here's the page numbers, 5 through 20. So it's basically page 1 through 20 and 1 through 65 that will help you also answer your critical reflection activities. As I mentioned, next week is when critical reflection is due, and you're going to turn it in right here in the week 2 folder. And then also, as I mentioned, you're going to turn in your next stage of the digital portfolio and also the case study, and you're going to do all 3 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 on the 3rd week. So let me show that to you right now so that you know exactly where you're going to be turning this in. Now, notice you do not have access to this yet, but it'll be in week 3. So you'll click on that, and just like we have a homework assignment here, right there, you'll have a homework assignment in week 3 next week. So that's where those will go. And then, I mentioned the possible extra credit and this link to the Parks and Recreation and how it's like teaching. Let's keep going. All right, so we talked about the digital portfolio. I have corrected about 15 or 16 of them, and I love them. One of the things I did when I corrected them was I gave some feedback on, some suggestions. If I found a spelling or grammatical error, I tried to let you know so you could fix that. Looks like almost everyone's URL worked, which is exciting. But please take a look. If you didn't get points this time for the URL, you can still turn it in and you will get your points. Just make sure that you are always giving accurate information. So Here we go. And you're going to do just 5 of these. And this is straight out of your syllabus. So you're just going to choose 5 of these to add by the 27th. Professor Pariser mentioned a few things that people were struggling with around like font and template and things like that. And so she's going to be looking for some YouTube videos and talking to IT. And then she'll email you out some links to help with supporting the development of your Weebly's, and she'll be doing that in the next week. So remember, you have 2 weeks for that. We talked about classroom management and the difference between destructive, disruptive, and distracting behavior. You guys had your check-ins. This is the self-study, and we went through and we did this together as a class, and you came up with measurable goals. So by blank, I will blank with 90% or however percent of accuracy as measured by. We talked about the intervention plans and making sure that you have all the systems in place to make sure that your intervention is actually working. We talked about some possible resources and support. Actually, that should say resources and support. And then we went over briefly the PBIS model and how it is really around looking at all of the pieces, holistically looking at the environment to try to figure out what the behavior is and then replace the negative behavior with a positive behavior. So, and then we talked about data-based decision making and evidence-based interventions and, culturally responsive personal investment and feasible buy-in. So making sure that everything is happening and people are all on board and that it's actually useful for the population you're working with. And then, of course, the school-wide assessment and intervention, evaluation, and support. So then we got into the case study. So we're on stage 1, which is learning about your student, and you're going to turn in all 3 of these steps by the 27th to the extent that you can have them do or have them completed. I know that some of you are having the break if you're in Chula Vista, and so you're going to just do the best, and then you'll explain why you didn't have whatever work done that you don't have. So, and one of the things I did was I took the Bambara forms and I gave you the link to all of the forms, and notice that for each form, oops, here we go, you have the PDF and then you have the filled PDF. Oops. And so you can always see how did somebody else fill out this same worksheet as we're going through. Oops, where did I go? Here we are. All right, so then you've got step 1, which is where you're going to do a review of the record. So this is where you're finding out about the student. What things do you find out about? You find out about their language, their grade, their age, if they have any sort of support goals, if there have been, what are their grades, attendance, office referrals, incident reports, if they've had any sort of interventions or accommodations or support that's helped them. And that could be academic, behavioral, social, or emotional, and then who's done these supports, and also interviewing at least one person. It could be a teacher, a school personnel, maybe a family member. And then also if you do have, let me just put this right here, if you do have a student with an incident report, then, or you have a student who doesn't have an incident report, but you want to take a closer look at, we have a blank one and then we have a filled one here. So you can go through and write that. Then we're going to do the step 1.2, which is the culturally responsive student transition presentation. So I gave you links to this folder right here. And in this folder, it looks like Cassandra's already put hers in, so she's starting. But you can actually download these PowerPoints, or you can, you can download them, or you can open them in here. And maybe what we can do just to keep things at least clean in here, we'll put, let's see, USB CRSTPs right here. And then I'm going to put Cassandra's in there right now. And there we go. So then you can just have those in there so that that way we're not, this is still really clear. What I did add was some examples of these CRSTPs. So I will just show you this one. And you can see, oh, that's a download one, so let me just find out. If you have problems, download, here we go. Okay, and here we are. So, oops. Got things opening up all over. So here we go, and you can just take a look, and here's an example and how they did it, and they have pictures, and the student got to kind of put her own personality in and put together the ideas. Here's another one, and this one, you know, it's got different resources and things like that, but, you know, more pictures, important people in their life, and you can see all of those pieces. So here we go. And, oops. Okay, now I'm, there we go. So I'm going to just go ahead and say this. Sorry about this. Sometimes when you're trying to close things, you have issues. So anyway, but these are all resources so you can see what it is. And please remember, this is the best you can do. This is whatever level you can do. And I'm just going to open this up really quickly to remind you. We can even open with Google Slides. That's fine. I can create them all in Google Slides. That they have the directions at the bottom. And when you're filling these out, I want you to make sure that you actually write in whatever the prompts are. So here's an example, and you'll just save this with your name and then the date that you're working on this, and that's fine. But each one of these has notes at the bottom that tells you like the different prompts and things like that. And you can split these up into more than one slide. All of that's okay. You can say like, oh, okay, you know, this student, for example, we use the term needs, we use the term ability. So if they have a disability, then maybe you want to use that. If they've got just some sort of whatever their ability level is, then you could also put that in there. One big thing to make sure you do is explain it, though. You know, as we talked about last night, somebody with ADHD people with ADHD do not always look the same, and so you have to be very explicit about what it is that prevents them, or how it manifests for them in school, for example. And then the last part is the step 1.3, which is the problem identification and decisions about the priorities. We have the blank sheet right here that you can download, and it's a PDF that you can actually type into, and I have a picture of it here. And then I decided to also attach to this slide the completed one, so you can see what a completed one looks like as well. So let me just, let's see, open this, and see if we can get it. And when you look at it, you can see this is how they filled it out, and then they marked which ones were there. And at the bottom, they made a choice on which behaviors they were going to look at. Now, remember, I told you you only have to do 2 or 3 behaviors. You do not have to have 6, even though there's 6 lines. And you're only really going to pick one behavior that you're really going to focus on, at least at first, for this course. So hopefully that's helpful and will kind of reduce any sort of stress of like, how am I going to get this all done? So, you know, this really is to be helpful. And if you have any questions about filling this out, please contact me and let me know. So, here we go. And then Sean and you all worked on the RP instruction, and you met the unicorn, and it looks like the unicorn stayed up in the above the light, so it looks like we might have a unicorn there for at least this term, depending on how if maintenance is able to get it down. I kind of like the idea of it being in the room. And then you guys talked about multidisciplinary teams and the structures that we're going to be using as we have these different meetings and are working on supporting the students in the best way possible. So let me see, did I miss anything? Just looking at these, I think we're good. So once again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And yeah, if you want to just even see like the annotative self-study, those were both attached there. And have a good week. Thank you so much for doing the hard work that you're doing.